To speak on the Electricity and Other Legislation Amendment Bill 2018. The objectives of the bill are to modify the Electricity Act 1994, the Energy and Water Ombudsman Act 2006 and the National Energy Retail Law Act 2014. The bill proposes a number of changes relating to the current non-reversion policy for regional Queensland, the solar bonus scheme and embedded networks which fall under these acts. The changes to the solar bonus scheme particularly affect the people in the Bundaberg electorate. An article in the News Mail just a few weeks ago confirmed that Bundaberg still takes the #1 spot in Australia with the most solar panel installations. We have the highest number of small solar generation units since 2001, installing just shy of 12,000 panels in the past 17 years. Bundaberg is the home to a large number of retirees, a high number of small business owners, and we also have one of the highest unemployment rates in the country. Given these factors, many Bundaberg residents simply cannot afford the expensive cost of living. I often hear that they feel distressed and worried about money and how they will pay their day-to-day bills. The first proposed amendment I wish to discuss is a change to the solar bonus scheme's guidelines. Right now, the scheme is vague, complex and plainly confusing. The proposed changes to the scheme will make it easier for everyday people to follow. Customers need to understand when and under what circumstances they can install energy storage systems like batteries and secondary generation systems without putting their current eligibility for the solar bonus scheme at risk. Electricity and the legislation surrounding it is extremely complicated, so it's only fair that we adjust the scheme to make it transparent. As I mentioned, many Bundaberg residents struggle financially, so of course I want them to be able to continue to receive the upfront payments associated with the scheme for as long as they are eligible. It's only fair we honour the current contracts with those who have invested in solar. As well as making the rules clearer for our people, the proposed amendment to the scheme will also assist with getting Queensland's finances under control. People are genuinely worried about the amount of debt the government is in. It is also a concern I hear regularly from Bundaberg residents. And when introduced in 2008, the lavish scheme offered eligible customers 44-cent feed-in tariffs, which is great for those that signed up, but not so great for Queensland's debt. It isn't a shock that the scheme has been described as excessively generous. Labor introduced the scheme without proper consideration of its long-term financial implications. 4 years after its introduction in 2012, while in government, the LNP closed the scheme to new entrants. This was done in order to try and contain the projected major cost explosion. People who currently receive the rebate will continue to do so until the scheme's expiry date in mid-2028, as long as they remain eligible. Retrospectively, it would not have been fair to take this away. Even after closing the scheme to new entrants, it's been estimated that this Labor creation will still end up costing the government over $4 billion from its introduction in 2008 until 2028. During the examination of the bill, I questioned the departmental staff how much money the passing of this bill would save the government. I didn't expect such a precise and quick answer, but I was advised that the savings would be approximately $1 billion. That is huge. Imagine what we could do with that money. How many new schools could we build? It's disappointing that now, 10 years down the track, we've had to make corrections to try and get the current government out of the mess they've made of our state's energy policies. The other proposed amendment I would like to discuss relates to the non-reversion policy. The current non-reversion policy means that customers in regional Queensland who leave Ergon Energy to try a different electricity supplier cannot return to Ergon if they wish to do so. If this bill is passed, this policy would no longer be in effect for small customers. In October 2017, as a pre-election sweetener, the Labor government announced it would be removing the non-reversion policy for customers, giving them the option of returning to Ergon Retail. It was not apparent that they were only referring to residential and small business customers and would not be introducing the 50% to the 50% plus large and very large customers who had switched to a private retailer. Labor estimates that if all small customers currently supplied by private retailers elect to return to Ergon, the net cost would be $3 to $5 million per annum, which would be funded from the dividends of the state-owned electricity entities. That means $3 to $5 million per annum savings to regional customers if this bill passes, including those Bundaberg small business owners. Ergon Energy is a government-owned corporation, and the non-reversion policy was originally implemented in order to boost smaller, privately owned electricity retailers in regional Queensland. However, all customers have different needs, so restricting their choice of who supplies their power is unfair. As I mentioned earlier, Bundaberg uses the most solar power in Australia. Because of this, there is an oversupply of electricity in the market, causing the price of electricity to rise. Additionally, the pure lack of competition in Bundaberg leaves us with unreasonable and expensive electricity bills, set to increase by another $313 per household by the end of next year. The people who can least afford it are paying the price. Given all of this, I'm aware and disappointed that this legislative change will not fix the monopoly we have in Bundaberg for private households. However, as a member of the committee who reviewed this bill, I am able to see how it will make it fairer and less expensive for those living in regional areas lucky enough to have options when it comes to electricity providers. Small business is the backbone of regional community economies, including Bundaberg. In Bundy, we are so proud of our local businesses, and I'll continue to back them as long as I have the privilege to stand in this House. The change to the non-reversion policy will help make sure all those small business owners in regional areas, including Bundaberg, who are paying too much for their electricity, will have access to a fairer deal when it comes to choosing their provider. Life is about choice. Everyone is different, every business is different, so it is obvious different electricity providers are going to suit different situations. The people of our great state deserve simple fairness. We need to support residents and small business owners in regional areas. This is done by creating environments where they can thrive, not restrict them and watch them fail. Electricity pricing seems to be constantly increasing, so it's only fair that customers are allowed to at least choose who they are paying their money to. The State Development, Natural Resources and Agricultural Industry Development Committee reviewed this bill. As a member of this committee, I'd like to thank the other committee members, including yourself, Mr Deputy Chair, the Secretariat staff and all submitters. The bill was originally referred to the former Public Works and Utilities Committee for consideration prior to the dissolving of the 55th Parliament in October 2017. And I also thank the previous committee for the original work they have done on this bill. The 2018 bill is substantially the same as the 2017 bill, with one major additional purpose: amending the non-reversion policy. This bill was introduced to Parliament on the 15th of February 2018, and on the 20th of February 2018, stakeholders and subscribers were invited to make written submissions on the bill, at which we received 7 submissions. The committee had a public hearing with the Department of Natural Resources, Mines and Energy on the 5th of March 2018 to discuss the bill. The committee also received written advice from the department in response to concerns that were raised in the submissions. Mr Deputy Speaker, as a committee member and as the state member for Bundaberg, I support the passing of this bill based on the positive effects the amendments will have on Bundaberg and regional Queensland. Thank you.
I call the member for Batt.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. I rise today to make a brief contribution